It's time to ponder the question, what if I were in charge of the Marvel movie collection? Let's find out. Hello everyone, before I get started, I'd just like to say I am now an Eaglemoss affiliate, which is super exciting for me. If you're thinking of placing an order of one of the figurines in any of my videos from Eaglemoss themselves, and you've enjoyed my work on the collection over the past 5 years, please do so by hitting the link in the description. I'll make a small commission for the sale, and as a thank you, you'll find the latest offer code down there as well. Thanks everyone! So welcome to this, my first video in my new series celebrating the release of What If this summer, as I take you through what I would have done if I were in charge of the Marvel movie collection all the way back in 2016, right through today. That's all 140 issues, maybe more if they extend, who knows. The only rule, I can't cover Phase 3 films until Eaglemoss did, in order to make the production windows realistic. But otherwise, the whole of the MCU is up for grabs. I truly believe that with the right money and the right effort, any character can have a product produced for them, so there are no barriers for my version of the collection. Let's get started with the first 20 issues. So, issue 1 of my version of the collection is much the same as it was before. It is Tony Stark as Iron Man from the first Avengers film. The only change I'm making here is to make sure that the prototype sculpt and paint job is used. So, for those that weren't aware, the trial run of the figurine looked awesome. It was really good. The likeness of RDJ was perfect. And then when they mass produced these in the tens of thousands, a lot of them ended up looking really bad. They had really sloppy transfer work, really sloppy paint work, and a lot of people were actually put off the entire collection as a result. So I'm keeping it the same, but in my version, that prototype, which they're still using in the images today, that's the one that should be used. And issue 2 is Captain America from the Avengers. Nothing has changed here other than the fact I've brought him forward. I thought it would be nice to start the collection off with the main big 3 characters, just to really cement how good the collection's going to be from the get-go, but nothing has changed with the figure itself. Continuing along that vein, Thor rounds off the big 3 as issue 3 of my version of the collection, and much like Iron Man, I'm using the prototype here. The prototype, Mjolnir, didn't have the weird additional circles on the front of it that they used in the final figurine. That's completely inaccurate, so this version, the prototype version, which also has a slightly better face as well, that's the version I would put out. And for issue 4, I've put Black Widow from Captain America the Winter Soldier. This is an awesome figurine. It's one of the best instances of them taking a movie poster and turning it into a figure. So I haven't made any changes here other than bumping her along a couple of issues. But yeah, definitely one to start off with. And issue 5 of my collection is Loki, just like the real collection. I thought he was a good one to start off with, one of the best Marvel villains of all time. However, in my version, I have changed the head sculpt. So in the original, they have him looking down, and I know why they did that, because they took the moment that he's standing on Stark Tower and looking down at all the destruction below him, but it just didn't work for a figurine, because you put him on his shelf and he's not looking at you. So in my version, I've raised his head and I've got him looking forward. Otherwise, I've kept it the same. That's what I would have gone with. Issue 6 in my version is Nick Fury, just like the original, a great figurine and a great character to put near the beginning, so no changes whatsoever. Issue 7, I've put Star-Lord. Now, Eaglemoss picked the exact same character for issue 7, but their version, they went for the Chris Pratt likeness, which was okay, it wasn't too bad, but they chose the pose from the movie poster, but it was a really awkward pose. It did not translate well. He had his arm in front of his face. He was kind of like all twisted. It looked like he was twisted down the middle for some reason. And yeah, it just didn't really work for me. So what I've done is I've still picked a kind of dancey pose with these 2 weapons drawn, but a much more simpler one to look at and to create, and this one looks a lot more natural for him. And I also thought he wears his helmet in the first Guardians more than he does in any of the other films, so I thought this was the time to give him his iconic helmet. So in my version, we've got him helmeted, we've got a much better pose, but Star-Lord is still issue 7. And issue 8 is Hawkeye. So in the original collection, Eaglemoss made people wait until issue 25 for Hawkeye. And I get that. I get you want to keep people collecting and keep them waiting for certain characters. And I'm going to do that as well in mine. But don't do it with one of the core Avengers. And don't bring out things like Agent Coulson and the Mandarin before him. That just felt really weird. So what I've done, I've kept things simple. I've brought him to near the beginning of the collection, and he rounds off the team of the main Avengers in terms of regular figures. And I've picked his Age of Ultron version because this is the suit that Eagle Moss was advertising in their promotional material that they would put him in the first place. And it's slightly more comic accurate, and it's a cooler suit, and he's got more accessories. The bow looks better, and he doesn't have a bowstring going right down the middle of his face. So I would have chosen the Age of Ultron version, and it also brings another film into the collection really early on in the first 10. So I would have done this Hawkeye, and I'd have done him as issue 8. And now is a good time to mention that along with issue 8 came our first special. I've kept it the same as the Hulk, but for my version of the collection, I've used the French and Spanish version of the sculpt, the one that was later used for Omega over here. It's more detailed, and I really like how it looks with the other figurines, and I wish this is the one they would have gone with. So in my version of the collection, this is the Hulk we have. Moving on for issue 9, we have War Machine from Iron Man 2. I've kept the pose the same, but I've added a lot of additional detail because the first War Machine in the collection was really under-detailed compared to the later ones. So I've added transfers with his model number and things on. I've added the 3 little line details on those bits that come over the shoulder. The heavyweight version had those, but they removed them for this figurine, and it's not clear why. I've added ammo for the shoulder gun, and I've added additional cannons onto his left shoulder as well. The first War Machine suit was packed with weapons, and they took a lot of them away for the figurine, which I thought was a shame. So I've added them back in for my version, but War Machine is still near the front of the collection, just like Eagle Moss did. And this one's created a little bit of buzz on social media, so I would have had, as issue 10, I would have had Pepper Potts from Iron Man 3. Now this one's really interesting because in my version of the collection, what I'm doing here is I'm starting to introduce those secondary characters in order to prolong, give it a bit of longevity, because you can't make every single issue an Avenger. But because Eagle Moss have never given us a character as important as Pepper Potts throughout the entire collection, people are actually finding this one really, really exciting, which is great. I'm really sorry that it's not real yet, but yes, I would have Pepper Potts as issue 10. I would use her as kind of like the first instance of drip feeding secondary characters into the collection to kind of show people, look, this collection is going to cover everyone. I've chosen her from Iron Man 3 because I wanted to give her an Iron Man helmet to hold, and the outfit's quite simple. I quite like the shoes. I can imagine that they'd be done with transfers. They could look quite cool. But yeah, Pepper Potts from Iron Man 3 is issue 10 in my version. But we're not stopping there. So what I'm doing on YouTube is I'm going to do 20 issues each time. Otherwise, there are going to be so many videos for this thing. So we're going to continue right on to the first 20. So at number 11, we have Drax. And this figurine is a brilliant figurine. The likeness is great. Those tattoos are great. So I've bumped it along a few places just to spread out the Guardians a little bit more. But otherwise, I've kept this the same as the original. Issue 12, I've got Ultron. I've moved him up one space. But other than that, I've kept him exactly the same. Again, a major Avengers villain and needed to be near the beginning, and I've always thought this model, although it's quite simple in terms of paint, is really, really detailed, and it's a great sculpt to have and a nice height as well. So Ultron is number 12. And at number 13, it's the Winter Soldier from Captain America the Winter Soldier. Again, I haven't changed anything here apart from move it along a few issues. This is an awesome figurine. And very menacing, and you can put him with your villains, and you can put later versions of Bucky with your heroes. It works really well, and it's just, you can almost hear his theme with this figure. I love it. So this one is number 13. And at number 14, I've got Ant-Man, so I've bumped him up one place. The change that I've made here is in my version of the collection. I would obviously have given the Ant-Man characters the logo on the base, like all the other figures have. It's ridiculous that they've got it missing, so I have put the PimTech logo, the pin particle icon, whatever you want to call it, onto the base, which just elevates those Ant-Man figures a little bit more. But I've kept the figurine itself exactly the same. And issue 15 is another new addition to the collection, so I would have put Jane Foster here from Thor the Dark World. This is the most interesting outfit she wears. The rest of the MCU, she's just in regular clothes, so I've gone for her Asgard outfit, which I think is really nice and would really pop on a shelf. Again, much like Pepper, not a hugely exciting character in terms of being an Avenger or not, but a really, really prominent character in the MCU that has an absolute ton of screen time that Eagle Moss just never did, probably down to licensing. But I would have put her quite early on in the collection while we've got a lot of these Thor the Dark World characters coming, and I'd have put her in at number 15. Issue 16 is Red Skull from Captain America the First Avenger. I've moved him along a bit. I think issue 8 was a little bit too early to start bringing in side characters, but I've put him in issue 16, and I think he feels a lot stronger in that position as well. It's a great figurine, so I haven't changed anything with it, aside from moving him on a little bit later in the collection to keep things strong. And as we get a special every 8 issues, and I'm going to stick to that in my version. Eagle Moss kind of went a bit lax with it, but I'm going to stick with it. With issue 16, we get Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Eagle Moss went with the Hulkbuster. I will do the Hulkbuster as well because it's an awesome figure, but Groot is a much more important character. And in my version, I'm leaving a few of the Guardians a little bit later on to keep people waiting. So in order to go with Drax, in order to go with Star-Lord, Groot is here as the second special. And issue 17 is Scarlet Witch from Avengers Age of Ultron. I haven't changed anything with this figure. I think in terms of the prototype, the lightness is very good. So in my version, I probably would have be a little bit more picky with my quality controller just to make sure that they all look like this. But it's a great pose, it's a great character, and I just moved her a little bit early on because I think she's a really important character in the MCU. So I've made her a little bit earlier on, but it's the same figure. This one I absolutely love, and I think I've been a bit ambitious as to what an Eagle Moss version of this figure would look like, because I've used a Hot Toys figure for the basis of this image. But Whiplash, I would put as issue 18. Not the most exciting villain in terms of story, but in terms of look, he is incredible, and a much cooler addition to put into this stage of the collection than, say, like the Mandarin or Malekith were in the original. I just love his look. They'd be able to use transfers for his tattoos. I think a lot of these wires and stuff would be painted on. They wouldn't be hanging loose because they'd all snap off, but I can imagine them painting on all these wires. The whips could be made from kind of like a more bendy kind of tube material, just like they did with the Mark II version of Whiplash. But yeah, I think people would have loved to have Whiplash, and to put him in the collection this early, and really strong figure of a phase 1 villain would have been absolutely sweet, and it's such a shame they couldn't. But Whiplash is issue 18 in my version of the collection. And issue 19 is Odin. I haven't changed this one. It's a great figurine, but I've moved him a little bit earlier on because I think he's a stronger addition from Thor the Dark World than, say, Lady Sif or perhaps Malekith, which are coming soon, but I think they were probably put in a little bit too early, and I think that might have turned a few people off. So I've gone with Odin as issue 19. And then rounding off the top 20, it's Yellowjacket from Ant-Man. I've made a couple of changes here. I've made him bigger on the base because the Yellowjacket figure that Eagle Moss did was ridiculously undersized. Not even because he can shrink, like they genuinely made him the wrong size, which is really annoying because it looks awesome. And I've added that Pimtech logo to the base once again to elevate those Ant-Man figures even more. And there we have it. I'm super excited by this project, and I'm going to have lots more videos, lots more social media posts about how I would have done the entire collection. I've had an absolute ton of fun with it. Lots of Photoshop, lots of Marvel theorizing and things. It's exactly what I like doing. So let me know in the comments. Do you prefer my collection? Were you happy with the one we got? Are there any that I've put in here that you really wish were real, or any of the improvements that I've made that you think are really good and wish had happened? Let me know in the comments. Let me know on my social media channels, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time to give you 20 more figurines from my version of the collection. And every Friday, I'm revealing 10 more on my social media as well, so that you're not going to be able to avoid this project. So I really hope you're enjoying it. As always, you can get all the latest Marvel movie collection news by following me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then the Facebook group as well for all the latest discussions. And don't forget, if you want to buy any of, well, the real figurines from this video, the link is in the description. And if you buy one after clicking on it, I get a small commission. So if you want to make an order, please, please, please click that link. It really helps the channel out. It really helps me out. Yeah, and you also get a discount as well. So everybody wins. I'll see you in the next video. Keep on collecting.